Hi there, welcome to Breaking News. We have finally got answers from Noah Presgrove's mother that has spoken out in regard to supposed evidence, whether it's been returned or not, an update regarding the golf clubs and bag, and it might actually shock you. It just so happens to be more in line with what Robin Smith and Ashley Chadwick were saying in the past. But the issue was back then on Partners in True Crime, it was only certain members of the victim's family talking about it and saying how there are missing items. But now the mother has finally spoken out. And despite having a bit of distance between the two, possibly based on previous conversations and post what we've seen in the past of being isolated, left out of stuff and interviews, they seem to think on the same wavelength. So join me today as I share with you the latest screenshots and conversations and post, and also a never seen before text message, which is in regard to the golf clubs. So don't go anywhere, be sure to stick around. And if you are watching the live premiere, welcome. Share your live reactions in the chat box on the right-hand side of the screen. And at any point watching, and for those watching on catch up, if you have any reactions, questions or answers, discussions, theories, it can be anything. Be sure to drop a comment down below under the video because it will help with spreading awareness and YouTube putting the video out there so then more people get to learn about this shocking breaking news and discoveries. If you do want to catch up on recent coverage by me on the case, for the full playlist available, over 380 videos are located top right corner where the eye symbol is up there with some loose videos attached. And if you do want to support the channel, down below in the comments pinned message there is a PayPal link to me and a channel membership. Big shout out to those that supported the channel last night. I can't remember everybody's names, but I think it was Tim Daniel, Julie, and maybe the other person. You know who you are. It's very positive to see. Continue on with the momentum and pushing forwards. The order of how we'll do things today, I'll give you the backstory as to what the post was about, where it came from, the original comment, which then started off the chain thread, and then the response by Casey Smith, the mother to Noah Presgrove, and then add on from there, because it's important to look at it from both sides so people that are watching get just a better perspective, and also to highlight back with Dwayne, the one that was claiming to have Noah's tank top. Based on language and wording, I have highlighted it and I'll give you it from the different points of views and how it can be misunderstood and misinterpreted. So let's begin right now. What you're seeing on screen is a post from Facebook where it all started from. Noah Presgrove case discussion group 3 days ago by Joyce Burgow. Credit to them. I think this might have been the post at the time, as in was done to try and get some additional answers for potential videos and suggestions, and we got more than that. But let's just read what was originally said. Caden Pressey states that Noah Presgrove took the golf clubs out of his truck on Saturday when arriving. He stated they were hitting things with them, other objects besides balls, hard objects. Caden Pressey didn't get there till closer to midnight, based on what Alicia has stated on behalf of Caden. And just as a bit of a backstory there, Alicia in some audio message when telling another person, ended up saying Caden Pressey was with us at the household watching a movie. Jack kept calling. Caden eventually answered and was convinced to go on down to the party, and also promised they'd pay for the gas money, the fuel, whatever you want to call it. That was a false promise, but Caden got there close to midnight. So Caden wouldn't have seen what went on at the party Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon. So when Caden in the Partners in True Crime interview stated, well, the events on Saturday were quite normal and fine, everything was okay, how could Caden Pressey even comment about Saturday? How come Caden Pressey can say, you know what, I don't want to talk about Friday, we can't be talking about that. But in the police interview, Caden says, I was there Friday. And Caden Pressey also said in the never seen before text conversations of 2023 onwards, stating he may have been there Friday based on his language and wording. So on a day where Caden may have been present, Caden says, I don't want to talk about it. But on a day where he's not there, but he shows up later on at night, almost past midnight, Caden's like, oh yeah, that day went perfectly fine and was okay. You can't comment on it. You just weren't there, based on what Alicia says. It's a disaster, isn't it? I hope people watching right now rewind back just to what I've said then, because it's extremely important that it puts it into perspective. Besides that, adding on with what Joyce is getting at here, did they hit things with them in the middle of the night or the next day? And when Noah returned, did any of them see Noah load them into his truck before he left to go home? As in Sunday morning after breakfast, Sunday morning waking up, they're all going out to Warwick to get breakfast, then coming back home, dropping Caden off, and then the guys going back out, girls dropped off as well, the guys going back out, including Noah, back out to town to do something, and supposedly with Caleb how it has been worded in the past, right? And then after that, that's when Noah decided to go back home to his place of living, which I believe was his grandmother, where he was staying at, Deborah Smith, who's the mother to Casey Smith, if I'm correct in saying, wording it that way. And Noah Presgrove getting back home, having a shower, having a wash, and then doing whatever in between, maybe talking to his girlfriend, as some people have claimed online, hanging out. And then later into the afternoon, when Jack called Noah and wanted him back, which may or may not have included persuasive language of alcohol, as a wrongful death lawsuit suggests. But you get where it's going, as in the days, the times with Noah, roughly speaking, right? So when Noah did get back home on the Sunday after breakfast onwards, did he leave the clubs at the house, right? Anyway, where we're at, Noah loaded them into his truck before he left to go home. Robin Smith, that's what RS means, has stated they were never in his truck because the truck is parked at her house when she did the interview, specifically at the time. If someone knows where they are, why not tell DP or just return them? Who is DP? Deborah Don, I don't know. Dalen Presgrove means DP, just so you know. They are rightfully his. And that's the thing, yeah, they do belong to Dalen. But from what Brenda has said, not in her words, but relocating from where they came from, Dalen's mouth, supposedly, Partners in True Crime, one of the earlier interviews, so many minutes into the video, Dalen supposedly said, I gave Noah some clubs or something. Given is different to borrowing. If you're given something as like a gift, a present, it's for you to keep, for you to have. It's been passed on down. If you're borrowing something, it's only temporary, like you're renting it, but in a case of borrowing, you may not have to pay for it. But then there's a time period of when using it, and then you've got to give it back. If you're given something, as in Noah's given clubs, then they don't really belong to Dalen anymore, or at least Dalen has no purpose for them anymore if he's got a new set. It's worth taking into mind. But still, at the end of the day, clubs are clubs. If they're missing, and it's a problem. Because if you want to interpret it as Dalen giving them to Noah, well, then it becomes Noah's personal possessions, which makes it even more signified and even more important that a personal possession of Noah's has gone missing and not on behalf of somebody else. But we'll get to that with the context. This was the start of where Tree Flower, as you'll see there, Tree Flower, known as Casey Smith. And you could think, how can you have the name Tree Flower when on Facebook, if you type in those words, it will say it won't work. You need a human name. Personally, I don't know. I wanted to use Warlight Wrath, but it said, sorry, it has to be a human name. So clearly, I'm not a human. Oh well, I'm an alien. But beside that, Tree Flower, Casey Smith, you look at the profile picture, you look at the profile, it is Noah Presgrove's mother, and it's been highlighted many times in the past. Just like the equivalent as in Reddit, when you got those alternative usernames, and we've seen Robin Smith over there and Ashley Chadwick. We've seen the usernames. Anyway, this person, Jessica, says, you would think that all of Noah's belongings would be located at some point and returned to his family. In a typical accident situation of a friend, that is what friends and loved ones would do. Return all belongings so family can keep for memorabilia, or at least just to hold close as a memory. Yeah, there is still missing sunglasses, the tank top flag shirt, the wallet, the other shoe of Noah's, the Adidas one, and golf clubs. Anything else in between? Not off the top of my head. And within this comment thread, then Treeflower responded and said there were 4 boxes. Noah's nana, or also known as grandmother, Deborah Smith, gave out all his stuff first to the rest of Noah Presgrove's family, and then gave me, the mother to Noah, the leftover. So whatever Casey Smith, the mother, received, it was like the leftover stuff, meaning the more important things, perceived by some, was prioritised for other family members. Why would the actual mother, the biological mother to Noah, be left out in such a cold way, especially after the death of the son? Because of the past, because of grudges from the past, which don't link to the case, because of falling outs, division, splits, divides. You could interpret it that way. But it's the whole mention of trying to figure out what was returned to the family, what did the mother receive of Noah, for then that supposedly to be passed on to Dwayne, and then for Dwayne on Facebook to say, I've got Noah's stuff, they were handed on over to me by Kay Smith, Noah's mum. Right? It's trying to work out, okay, it might be Noah Presgrove's personal possessions which have been passed on, handed on to the mother, then handed on to Dwayne, the ex, but is it relevant to the party or not? And we do kind of get an answer there. We do need to go over the language and wording in between, of course. And we also need to look at the comments section. Then we've got this response here, which we can touch back on again later. Facebook Messenger convo, gives it a date, time. Casey Smith and whoever she was having a conversation with, September 26, 2024. An individual reaching out to Casey says, someone is claiming that you got Noah Presgrove golf clubs back from the party. Is that true? I don't believe the person, but I just wanted to verify it with you. Are you settling in at the new place? September 27th. Noah Presgrove's mom says, no, I do not have them, as in I don't have the clubs. My mom and family would not even let me touch a single thing of my son's. Tell me I did not deserve him as a mother. I was nothing. That's really hard hitting, that. It's not good to see. It shows that within Noah Presgrove's family, besides the case of Noah, there is a cold, isolated divide. And it kind of links back to Casey's comment of 2023 on Facebook about how being left out of interviews, was in Noah's truck at one point and then ordered by someone to leave, or the police would be called. Really cold behaviour like that. So you could understand, or at least at the time without the full context, why if Casey Smith did receive certain items of Noah back, then she might keep it to herself because the others aren't deserving of it based on how they've treated her. But with the context now of what she has received and who gave it to her, it was Noah's nana, Deborah Smith, and Deborah Smith as in the mother to Casey Smith. So when Casey says my mom and family, my mom as in Deborah Smith, Noah's grandmother, was responsible, and family as in not allowing Noah's mom to be able to touch her son's things and items. Casey's deserving of that, but was denied by kind of like secondary family members who are acting on behalf of Noah Presgrove, if that makes sense. So in terms of how the items came about, how they were handled, Deborah Smith and the rest of Noah's family, which could be Robin Smith maybe, Ashley Chadwick and anyone else in between, made sure that Noah's mom didn't get to take what she wanted. She was left on the sideline and had to stand by and allow it to happen, didn't have much of a choice, right? And with knowing that now, those four boxes that were supposedly received from Noah, but more so from the house of where he was staying at. And where he was staying at was with his grandmother, Deborah Smith. So Noah's personal possessions, which have been handed down passed on from Casey Smith's mother, Deborah Smith, Deborah the grandmother to Noah, Noah living with Deborah Smith. So whatever personal possessions that were at that house and not at the party, what was at the house and not relevant to the case was handed down to, for example, Casey Smith, as in 4 boxes, and then the rest, the more important stuff, prioritised for other family members. Meaning, how you can interpret it is Noah Presgrove's personal items that were worn, taken and used at the party specifically are still missing. Hence why Robin Smith and Ashley Chadwick state it that way, as in, well, we don't know where the hat is, the tank top, sunglasses, golf clubs, etc., the wallet, they're all missing. And I said in the past, okay, they may think it's missing, but do other family members feel the same way? When we heard about Dwayne claiming that, and we'll get it on screen right now, when we heard about Dwayne referring to Casey, as in Noah's mom, had given the tank top to me, Dwayne, and my daughters, once in a relationship with Casey in the past for a few years and getting close to Noah, you can understand why Casey would pass it on down to Dwayne as for some personal clothing to do with Noah. But in terms of how Dwayne worded it, it kind of linked to, oh, is it to do with the party? Because of the specific wording, and we'll get to that later, so don't go anywhere, so there's no confusion. So with what Robin and Ashley said, differed to what Dwayne was getting at, which then put Casey in the middle of it all, as in, oh, does she know more? Did she receive stuff from Noah from the party, and how was it handed down exactly? But what seems to be the case is Dwayne has used poor language and communication, and more so, what Dwayne is referring to is what he received from Casey, what Casey received from the likes of Deborah Smith and so on, is it's to do with Noah's personal possessions from where he lived, where he stayed, not what he was wearing or used at the party. So it's not that relevant to the case. Yes, Dwayne may have received a tank top, but it could be any tank top, right? I'm sure Noah had more than one tank top. The specific flag one, which was worn, taken to the party, still missing, supposedly, but another tank top which Noah had, similar, identical, or different in colour, whatnot, but at the place of living, at Deborah's house, it's not going to link to the case. But maybe Dwayne got mixed up when other people are talking about the tank top. Dwayne thinks, oh, yeah, that one, I have it. No, you don't. You have a different one. Still belongs to Noah, but a different one. I hope that makes sense to people. I can also maybe reword it a bit later. Of course, we're still focusing in on the golf clubs because it appears to be kind of like a personal possession of Noah. If Dalen has given them to Noah for keeps, because Dalen has a new set, moved on with better stuff, then Noah can do whatever he likes with these golf clubs and they're now his. Take them down to the party. Cadence claiming that they were used Sunday night. How true is that? Could have been used a day before, the night before. Is there any misunderstandings there? But just when there's been counterpoints by people, as in Noah may have loaded them or put them back onto his truck, and then Sunday morning onwards drove back home and then took the clubs, golf clubs and whatnot, back to the house, loaded them into the house, left him back at home. So then when he was picked up by Gage Jessen, went back to the party. Now, not got the screenshot right now, but people in the background were saying Gage Jessen did a post in the past acknowledging that Noah Presgrove was empty-handed when he showed up and being picked up to go down to the party. So if Noah had taken the clubs back home, he left them in his truck or the house to then be picked up to go to the party and leave the clubs behind. And yet Caden Pressey was the one saying, well, Sunday night, Noah Presgrove and I were using the clubs, so they never left the party. And furthermore, with more so what we're seeing by the comments here about, no, I do not have them, as in I do not have the golf clubs. My mum, Deborah Smith, and family would not even let me touch a single thing of my son's from the house, as example. And just to acknowledge further down, which we probably didn't do before, the person's response to it was, okay, well, that's interesting because Brooke Bounds Carter is telling everyone that you, Casey, have the golf clubs. More of their BS lies. And Casey said, if I would have had them, as in if I had the golf clubs, I would have to seen my son before he died if they had the golf clubs out there at the party. There's no way in hell I would something them have them. I would have to have been in the presence of my son to see the clubs or retrieve the clubs before Noah had died. So, okay then, so once Noah has died, onwards after that point, where did the clubs go? Unknown, because they went missing, supposedly. But the claims of, well, maybe it was taken back to the house where Noah was living at. Well, if so, well then Deborah Smith would have found the clubs or seen the clubs. And from the way it's worded, as in Deborah Smith's, Casey's mom, and the rest of the family wouldn't let Casey touch certain things. And if that involves Robin Smith and Ashley Chadwick, if they're on side of Deborah Smith, which could seem likely, well then Deborah Smith would know ultimately whether Noah brought the clubs back home or not. And with that other comment, was it mentioned up here, or it was probably on the previous post, yes, that one. Robin Smith has stated they were never in his truck. So basically they were never like taken back to the place of living or onwards. So post death of Noah Presgrove, or even post Sunday morning onwards, Noah Presgrove did not take the golf clubs back home. Deborah Smith would have seen or witnessed them if Noah had come back home with them in the back of his truck. If it's true, especially with Gage Jetson saying Noah Presgrove went to the party, went back empty-handed, if by any chance that Noah Presgrove left the clubs at the place of living Deborah Smith, then Deborah Smith would know that they're there, would pick them up and hand them to whoever that needed them, as in family members, or to honour Noah Presgrove as a memory. And because Deborah Smith would know or not, and likely Robin Smith, who's close to Deborah Smith because of the names and the connections, and Ashley Chadwick, that they're probably all in the same wavelength and knowledge as to what's present and what's not, such as with Deborah's house and Noah's personal possessions and Noah's boxes, that not once did the golf clubs ever come up in conversation or were acknowledged, only that they were claimed as missing by Robin and Ashley Chadwick. And now, despite the divide between Ashley, Robin versus Noah's mom is saying the same thing as Robin and Ashley, despite if there is a bit of a divide and isolation. They're individually saying the same thing, which increases the validity and reliance of it. But it seems to be, at the end of the day, the golf clubs and bag are missing still till this day. And Noah's mom highlights that as well by saying, I don't have them, and if I would have had them or seen them, it would have been before he died. So after death, the golf clubs ended up somewhere at least, right? They had the golf clubs out there at the party. Okay, the wording of if they had the clubs at the party, as in the condition that if, and it just happens that Caden Pressey did say, despite, being cautious of Caden after all this time, Caden did acknowledge that the golf clubs were used Sunday night. And as long as they were there Sunday night, as long as they were there, and I guess remain there once Noah Presgrove made it back to the party, that's what matters, because from there on then, whatever happened to the golf clubs more likely was by the hands of someone else and not Noah, because Noah Presgrove, Sunday onwards when returning back, didn't have the chance or opportunity to actually go back home, even if he wanted to go home, because no one would give him a lift, a ride, and Noah didn't have his own form of transportation. So my question is, if anyone can answer it as a possible poll, is if Noah Presgrove was granted a ride back home, would Noah's items have still been missing? Would Noah Presgrove have misplaced them? Would anyone have stolen them? Would Noah Presgrove have forgotten about them and just went back home empty-handed? Or would Noah have gathered up all his items, from his wallet to the golf clubs and bag, his hat, sunglasses, other shoe, and anything else in between? Would everything have been returned if Noah Presgrove had lived and there was no death? Because if there was no death but items were still missing, is it foul play then? Not really. Could be petty theft, a prank played on Noah. Is it, not that it's guaranteed, is it possible in the slightest that someone played a prank on Noah Presgrove, stole an item of his possession? But then post news of Noah's death, people thought, well, we can't return it back because it might come across as suspicious somehow. So it's just better not returning it back or saying that you've got it or you took it in the first place. I mean, if people were honest, they wouldn't have much to hide and it should be okay. But I'm just thinking of alternative theories and ideas. But it seems like, just based on this individual point about the clubs, that Noah's mom, Noah's aunt and cousin are on the same wavelength individually, and Cade and Pressy as well. So as to the location of where they're at, still remains a mystery from the looks of it. Let's just take a brief look now at the reactions as to what's gone down in recent time on Joyce Begow's post, as in the comment section. What you're now looking at on screen is from the Noah's Ark for Justice page on Facebook by Joyce Begow once again, saying, update, was told this could be shared, which is a screenshot of what we saw before, but we're looking at the comments. The caption, first of all, says, with the comment of Noah's mother had stated and regarding being given stuff of his from her mother, Deborah Smith, that doesn't state it was his stuff from the party house. Of course, as for a message with regarding the golf clubs, someone asked her about them. Her response is that she does not have them. I have seen this message. No, I will not share it as it's not mine to share. You can either believe what I'm saying or not, your choice. And of course, everybody else has their opinions. So with like what I've said and how I've suggested with the language and wording today, you can let me know your thoughts down below, whether you agree or not. And perceptions can change. We'll see what some people's initial reactions were like just recent. In the comments here, we got Mike Johnson says, those golf clubs could be many places. People don't speak up. The fact is, Noah wasn't beaten to death and golf clubs weren't used. Why would he leave them there? He wasn't planning on coming back. I doubt he'd leave his brother's things behind when he hasn't coming back. So they may be missing, but not from the party house. Did he lug them out there with the ride he got? Oh, as in Gage Jessen. Well, from what's been said, Gage Jessen, in an old post, which some people have claimed to see, said that no, Presgrove, went by the vehicle ride empty-handed. If golf clubs were used there, would be absolute proof of that. However, everyone is entitled to their opinion, as police said. What do golf clubs have to do with anything? Okay, so golf clubs could be deemed as irrelevant and not important. So who would find it important enough to make them go missing then? And it's just trying to figure out who would make them go missing. Was it Noah himself or was it another party goer? And if it was anyone else, well, then it does raise eyebrows based on that outlook. But let's just see the responses, right? Becca, but the thing is, Mike, is you are 100% right. That doesn't mean that he was beaten with them, but the golf clubs and other items have been the topic of many conversations. I thought maybe you guys would appreciate a screenshot that I actually could share. Nobody else in his family has the golf clubs. And then it was rumoured that Casey had them. She doesn't. And she said she doesn't have them. That's it. Mike, I'm not going to tell you everything I know because then I'll get accused of making up. But when I can get screenshots, I'll share. Robbie says it's Casey. Really disrespectful to even spell her name. What? Really disrespectful to never even spell her name right. I'm sure it's not done on purpose. Anyway, Tim says to Robbie, thank you. This has been bugging me and I've been biting my tongue to not correct her on that spelling every time. How was it spelled here? Well, we'll just leave that for now. I have more respect for that woman than all of you put together. I see how you guys talk about the family. Everybody sees it, not even worth responding back. I'm doing voice to text, kind of like what Michael Facecast has done in the past. Sometimes voice to text will give the word, the name, what you're saying, but it may spell differently automatically. Technology isn't always reliable. Rachel says to Mike, how are you able to give this statement based upon facts? I thought that it was known that the golf clubs were given to Noah by his brother, so they were Noah's belongings, not Dalen's. Okay, there we go. That's what I was hoping to come across. because that's what supposedly how it was worded by Dalen in the Partisan True Crime. If you wonder why I say supposedly, it's because I've not had the time to look at it myself. Right, I'm being honest. Other people that have witnessed that interview have re-quoted saying that's what Dalen said, as in they were given to Noah, given as like a gift, passing on down. So what was Dalen's becomes Noah's. So with it being Noah's personal items, it makes it even more important in the case, to be honest. Beside that, also, it's been said long ago that Noah drove to the party on Saturday, which he then pulled out the clubs and they were hitting items with them. The only bit of proof or evidence, and it's more so hearsay, is when they were used and what for, and Caden said Sunday night. And if the clubs were there Sunday night onwards, even Sunday afternoon, that's around the time of when Noah Presgrove returned back to the party. So it gives that interesting outlook, of course, and still those counterpoints of, well, if Noah Presgrove did leave, as in Sunday morning after breakfast to go back home, and he didn't have any intent on returning back, why would he leave his golf clubs and bag behind if it is his personal possession now? Why leave it behind? Did he leave anything else behind? So we can go back and forth with that. What else do we have? Michelle. So, Mike, how do you know anything as a fact? No, you don't. No, none of us do. So please stop saying something as a fact when it's not been stated proven. Brenda, we don't even know when she was given the 4 boxes. It could have been at a later date than the person stating she didn't have any of Noah Presgrove's belongings. Oh, right, so the relevancy of what some people were claiming compared to what Casey was referring to. So for that context, there was a time difference, as in some people just wouldn't know, left guessing in the dark, making points. And then with time, there are clearer answers. Maybe that's how it's worded. I'm so out of the loop, I don't even know anything about the stuff, but I do appreciate it, okay? Joyce, I did update the post. Thanks for the information. I think we knew this, or at least I did. She does not have the missing items and never did. So I think that's like the main aim of these posts. So rumours and claims of Casey having this and that, which is probably derived and sparked from how Dwayne worded it himself. Dwayne worded it as in, I have Noah's tank top, which was deemed as missing originally, and I have more items as well, but it's irrelevant, and Casey handed me those items. So, of course, naturally, it's going to make people think, well, if Dwayne, some ex, has Noah's personal items which are from the party, based on how it's worded, well, then Casey must have had them in the first place to pass them on. So what's going on with Casey then? Who passed them on to her? And in the end, it seemed to be a big misunderstanding, as in Dwayne, indirectly, with his poor language and wording, has put Casey in the middle of it all and thrown her under the bus. Not with intent, maybe not in a nasty way, just unintentionally, accidentally. You can kind of see how language and wording can put other people in harm's way and then up for criticism. That's why communication is needed and necessary. I'm seeing it from the different outlooks and perspectives. So at the end of the day, from how things have come about, is that Casey Smith, individually as a person, never received, never had access to the golf clubs or the bag. And from the looks of it, other items as well. The leftovers, as in probably leftovers from the house of where Noah lived at with Deborah Smith, and not to do with the party house. Because I don't see Casey saying, I have evidence, I was given evidence by police. Not seen anything mentioned like that. Okay? What else do we have? I have this somewhere, I've seen it, pretty sure if it's... Okay, I've seen this before. Really? Referring to seeing this screenshot before. Mike, also, I'm not going to go against Noah's mother out of respect. However, it was a family member that stated she had them. Okay, well, that's interesting, of course. Why would a family member of all people make a false claim about that? She says she doesn't. Okay, then someone else has them. They only hold relevance to getting them to the person they belong to, and no proof that they were there Sunday night, Monday morning. Well, the only proof that they were there Sunday night is Caden Pressey's words, and it's probably not good enough. Now, if anyone in the background knows, is there any Snapchat footage, any video recordings, any photos or selfies dated, timed to Sunday evening, Sunday night, and golf clubs that are used or in the background. Is that possible? Becca says, oh, it has a lot more importance, but we'll just stop there. I've never had a problem with you at all. Respect your decision. That's not what it's about. It's about giving people something so they can stop complaining about it. Siobhan says, who says they have more importance? Your autopsy doesn't mention them or support them being used in Noah's death, so basically they're just missing property, not really significant. Well, it's significant to Noah Presgrove if it's Noah's personal possession now, from how it's been worded in the past by Dalen handing them to Noah. What were once Dalen's are now Noah's, so then when Noah takes it to the party, with whatever intent that was, and then they end up going missing afterwards or at some point, why should other people and other partygoers be messing or touching them out of respect for Noah, especially if they've heard post-death of Noah? Why would anyone touch anything? You know, in the moment, anything could be seen as potential evidence, so you wouldn't move, adjust, or touch anything whatsoever. So if anyone else did make a conscious decision to move the clubs or bag, it's more questions upon them, as in, on top of it, if certain items were never used in the death of Noah Presgrove, then there's absolutely no reason to be moving, disposing, or hiding them. And if anyone did, well, then it's just really unusual and odd, and it just digs them into a hole, if that's the case. And no proof they weren't there. They can go both ways. Becca says, I won't say the information about the 4 boxes because I'll be making again. So the information regarding what was in the 4 boxes, interpreted from my point of view as not relevant to the case, not relevant to the party house, but the house where Noah lived at with Deborah Smith, grandmother, but mother to Casey, and had the overall control of what goes where. And as for items, and Casey, you can have the unimportant stuff, you can have the leftovers, which are likely not to do with the party from the looks of it. And if it's Deborah that's handing the stuff out and any other family members in between, there's no mention of police, is there? No mention of police handing stuff on. But of course, in other areas, maybe like with the phone, handing that down. If Noah Presgrove's phone was processed and then given back to the family, something like that given back. That's safe because I can't remember, but you know, that's like how it would be worded and how it would go. What else do we have? Tim, please just tell us. This is what we're working with here. I'm trying to be nice tonight, but you need to be forthcoming with the people in this group that you're using information from your psychic to harass Noah's mother about the golf clubs. Harass? What do we have here? A general chat, Presgrove project. And that's to do with Michael Faiscaz. It's not uncovered. I know where it's supposed to be, supposedly, but until it's retrieved, I won't know for 1,000% sure if it was there. If you understand what I'm saying, you can have all the psychic compressions you want in the world, but if you don't have evidence to back it up, then it's going to do something to you. Where it's supposed to be. But until it's retrieved. Is this to do with the clubs speaking in code, in a sense? Right, it didn't kick me off, that's good. We might as well acknowledge all the comments whilst we're here for the additional backstory. Joy says, I can guarantee that this message with Noah's mother is not Becca. This is not harassment. As for this information you shared, I can't explain to you about it. And Tim, I don't care who the message is from. Nobody that I have ever spoken with thinks Noah's mother is in possession of the clubs currently, not even Brooke. A cousin of Noah's was the one who made the statement that Noah's mother, Casey, sold the clubs. It is irrelevant to me where the clubs are because the autopsy did not show that Noah died from a beating with clubs. But it's important enough to get down to the bottom of it because it is a matter of, is it a family member within that's making false claims? Is it people online making false claims? Is it people within the case on the inside making false claims? Because depending which way it falls, it does add suspicion to the case, more so if it was a person directly within the case or someone tied on behalf of someone via family or blood and friends of those from partygoers in the case, you know, as like a form of misdirection. If there was anyone inside of the case making false claims about Casey selling the clubs or owning the clubs at one point, retrieving them back, but they're actually elsewhere, And ever since, Casey's like, well, no, I don't have them. I've never had them to begin with. Didn't see them. I'd have to have been there before Noah died to see them, for them to be present in my line of sight and whatnot. So on the condition, a theory, and that is all, that if anyone inside of the case, who made a claim like that, that would be deemed as suspicious, misdirection. But when it's one of your own by blood, if it is a Noah Presgrove related family member, as Tim says here, a cousin of Noah's has made the statement, what's that all about? And when I think of Noah's cousins, I'm only aware of one, and that's Ashley Chadwick. So I'm guessing, Tim, it wasn't Ashley, it was a different cousin. Ashley Chadwick and Robin have commented about the golf clubs in the last Partners in True Crime interview of 2024, when they were reacting to a pre-recorded interview of Jack Newton, and they brought it up about, well, the golf clubs and other items are still missing. We've never had them returned back. We've not had the wallet, we've not had the tank top, we've not had the hat, etc. They've not been returned back. So, it can't be Ashley, it can't be Robin, it can't be Casey. But another cousin of Noah's, has made these claims that Casey did. But Ashley and Robin are in the dark about this cousin then. So there's another cousin out there of Noah that's even more divided with other family members. Sounds like a massive breakdown in communication. Was it ever cleared up though within the family? Was it talked about since? Because publicly, not been clear enough, has it? Becca, Tim, this has nothing to do with the psychics. This is a direct message. What is wrong with you? I'd never put out screenshots from a psychic as proof, but that's your guys' MO. Oh my gosh. It's not really legit. Sorry, but it is. This is a screenshot from last fall between Noah's mother and Michael Facecaz. Now, is where you usually come out and say, but I don't believe that person. That's exactly what Brooke says. Every single time that I've sent her proof in the past correcting misinformation, she all of a sudden says, can't trust the source. Insane. I don't know if they're emojis, but it's like a blank box. But you sent Brooke screenshots from a psychic to prove Carter was in trouble. I'm not aware of that, I'll be honest. What do we have here? This reference again. 4 boxes. His nana gave out all his stuff, first to family and then gave me leftover. So in fairness, looking at it from the other perspective, to say all of Noah's stuff was given out, okay, the mother didn't receive the main things, it was just the leftovers, which is quite rude and disrespectful and unfair for the mother. The mother should be deserving of having the choice and, you know, first-hand picks in a way, because it's the mother of all people and it's the son that's gone. So that should be acknowledged and respected, but it wasn't. And maybe this is because of the past, falling outs in the past before Noah's death and all of the kinds of trouble back then and long-term grudges onwards, which is unfortunate. But to say gave out all of his stuff, all of Noah's possessions, the word all could apply to, of course, anything that Noah owned, was wearing and had, whether that be on him at the time or not, whether that be from the place where he lived or even at the party house. At least Casey Smith and how she words it, Casey, from the looks of it, hadn't received or given personal possessions of Noah which were relevant to the party. That's how it can be interpreted, right? At least it's the golf clubs that there's a consensus amongst other family members that they're still missing. With my own eyes, I'll be honest with you, unless it's mentioned elsewhere which hasn't been shown, of course, I can understand Becca in her situation, what can be shared and what can't be, out of respect for people's privacy, not wanting to burn bridges down and not wanting to cause any trouble, but still wanting to try and balance it out with trying to spread some kind of awareness and building it with time, that if the details were explained in regard to what were in those 4 boxes, I could understand the outcome being that if those 4 boxes full of Noah's personal possessions are just of clothing and whatnot, and it's not to do with the party, it's only to do with where he lived, right? Separate. Then you can say Casey Smith has nothing of evidence, nothing of value to do with the party which Noah attended. But Dwayne, from how he words it, makes it sound like Casey did have important pieces of evidence and items from the party which are associated with Noah. But that can be explained alternatively based on language and wording, and we'll get to that shortly. Let's just get out of that for a second. Will be shared when we get permission, so there could still be updates along the way. Tim Daniel, I thought everyone was in an agreement Noah's mom does not have the clubs. I thought this was the one thing we all agreed upon. Well, what's been mentioned a bit further up, the mention of a cousin. Let's just get on the full replies. It's a bit long, but we'll see. I know that you guys think that I make all this in my head because I have nothing better to do in my life. Well, to be honest, Becca is busy with the treadmill, so I think that's important enough, and that vibrating device. Anyway, so when I'm able to share, I'm sharing. Oh, by the way, about the 4 boxes, I'll keep you posted, coming soon. Well, that will help complement things, of course, and I'll do an update on that when possible. Tim says, the issue is that some of you said that Noah's mom and Dwayne by proxy does not have any of Noah's items. So please share the screenshot of her talking about the items she was given of Noah's, whether it be to do with the party or not. I tried to make a post, but y'all didn't approve it. And that says a lot. Noah's mom made it very clear that she is not on the best terms with the other family members. And because of that, other family members could have stuff which Casey doesn't. So then some are left in the dark and others are not, whatever that may be. They gave her 4 boxes of Noah's items, but she felt left out. It is clear the various sides of Noah's family do not know what is in each other's closet. You mean literally, or you mean in a different way, metaphorically? The clubs are completely irrelevant, and JJ Bumpaz explained to us that Caden had lied about the clubs. So, Tim Daniel, I know you were I think you were supposed to get a screenshot of Gage Jessen or something, Tim, to reach out to me. Whether that be you or anybody else in between, because I've never seen it myself, and it would help a lot. If anyone has screenshots or a post of JJ Bumpaz explaining that Caden had lied about the golf clubs, can somebody reach out to me? Such as on one of the social media pages. Links are available on my main channel page. Make sure to do so because it sounds interesting. Tim says, this was the origin of the murder by golf club theory that started with Caden and Alicia. Nobody thinks Noah's mom has a bag of clubs in a closet. Brooke doesn't think that, I'm pretty sure. I have no issues with you getting to the bottom of things. Show the facts and we can add that to the body of evidence. I've never ever questioned that you want the real material truth. I know that what you think is proof is extremely different than what I think is proof, or more importantly, what the courts will allow as evidence. You think Noah was beaten to death with a golf club, and you think a psychic told you exactly where that club is buried with his hair. Yes, we saw the screenshots. I'm sorry, Becca. That is way too much for me to accept, and I'm an old, long-haired hippie. You don't look that old, Tim. I mean, what, maybe 40 or something? Because I said you look like Jack Sparrow. Well, not Jack Sparrow, you look like Johnny Depp. You sure you're not Johnny Depp? That profile picture. Anyway, I've got distracted. Upset that sleeps with a big rose quartz and a salt lamp on my nightstand. And I'm sure, Tim, you've got some sequined buttons in your pocket somewhere, haven't you? And wake up to pulling a tarot card most mornings. I get it, I do, but I put all that aside when I'm reading an autopsy report. There's not one single mark in that report from a golf club. You're leading a charge for these golf club beatings, and it's just you and Justin at this point. Noah was not murdered with a golf club. Your psychic friend got it wrong this time. I'm going to stop you right there. I have so many problems with just about everything you wrote. Why do you think I give a crap what Brooke thinks or feels? And as for the rest, when I can share, I will. I owe you nothing. When I have permission to share, I will do so. I don't care if you believe me one single bit, Tim. I don't generally even look at anything that comes on the page to approve. I'm sure you can go post and so on. But Gal, I've been away and had a break earlier. I did in fact see the comment from her about having belongings that she had been given. I didn't see where you tried to post of recent family dynamics are what they have to figure out. I've seen it said that she had them and then sold them. Oh, I've seen it to be said. Well, further up in the comments, a person was claiming it was one of Noah Presgrove's cousin, a family-related member, making the claims of what Casey had and selling the clubs, which doesn't sound good, does it? What's going on there? This is to prove she didn't have them and nowhere to be found. As simple as that. One screenshot what we're seeing, Casey saying, I don't have the clubs, and they're still missing. I'm not saying that they were used for any sort of beating, even though there might have been clubs in the pile. JJ stated that he was there. That doesn't mean they're the ones that Noah had. So when Tim says about JJ has explained that Caden was lying about the clubs, lying about what? When they were used, what day they were present, were they even there in the first place? What's going on? I feel for Noah's mother, I feel for his family and friends. No one would ever want this to be anything nefarious. I'm glad they would declare that they weren't in a possession. The real question is, where are the golf clubs that Dalen wants back? But the question is, does Dalen actually want them back if, from what's been mentioned in the community, that he has a new set and the old set were given to Noah and not borrowed? Dwayne states Dwayne states that he has Noah's tank top, but where's the rest of the items? Has Dwayne actually ever shown anyone proof he has the tank top, the one that Noah took to the party? Appreciate you, Joyce. Thanks for your comment. You managed to lower my blood pressure somehow. Well, don't worry, Tim Daniel. Dr. Warlight Raff has a very special method when it comes to reducing people's blood pressure. All under control. The door is open, Tim, if you want it. That's not to be taken out of context. It's literally an actual method, okay? It involves doing the heartbeat sound, and it just controls the flow of blood. But we'll talk about that another time. Dwayne talks about the other items. The insinuation is that the other items were destroyed because the murderers had to get rid of all of Noah's evidence. This started exactly with Justin when he suggested that all of Noah's items were thrown into a lake. Oh no. That was why he said they were headed to the lake. When he learned Caden knew about the lake trip, the story changed to go look in the fire pit. They burned them. And on and on and on. This takes a very long and twisted route, and I'm not going to get into the history of Noah's items as told by Justin, I believe by many. Once again, Dwayne tried to tell us what he had, and it was not just a tank top, it was other items. And based on just that alone, yeah, it's interesting. I don't care about the items. Dwayne owes us nothing. Dwayne doesn't really owe us anything, but if he's wording it incorrectly or so supposedly different to what Casey says, well then there needs to be a bit of clarity. You're saying not pertinent as explanation. I've heard many stories. Unless someone comes forward, there are many things being said by Justin I don't follow unless I see proof. Donna does tell me I seem to be calm to her storm. Glad to know I can calm your blood pressure. Oh, Nurse Joyce Bergow. Looks like you got a new role, Joyce. You got a new role, controlling people's blood pressure. But I think most of the time I can't control people's blood pressure. I seem to make people's blood pressure rise through the roof. The thermometer is popping off the scale. Anyway, Becca, if you think talking about a psychic is going to bother me, you couldn't be more wrong. If you want to know the truth, it makes me laugh. Tim, I know how badly you want to be right. Honestly, I do. I once really did think you wanted justice, but I no longer think you are more concerned with being right or you agree with anything else. I was so traumatized from that conversation that night, 5.5 hours long, that I couldn't sleep for 3 weeks. Wow. I literally had nightmares. If you think that I want that to be true, that's actually insane. So the fact that you guys can be so glib, whatever that means, to mock somebody that has done this for decades and does this for families is disgusting. So just curious, did you look into her? Did you see all her readings and how right she is? Did you do your research into her so you could actually know what you're talking about? I don't do crystals, I don't do tarot cards, none of that. And if you do, fantastic, I have zero problem. With anybody seeing the conversation, many people have the conversation, so what do I care? I don't care at all, and I'll make it that much better when this case is solved. I don't need, I told you, Sam, I don't need anything from any of you. You have no idea what I think is proof. There's so much that you guys don't even know. Do you know about the people that were there that night? The ones that are being shielded from getting out, so names are hidden. you know, Becca, the ones that are being shielded from getting out, does that have any link to the wrongful death lawsuit in which there is a John or Jane Doe's unidentified people? Does that link? They haven't been mentioned in the public. I do. Or how about the reason he took a shower? What, the real reason why Noah took a shower? I do. And it wasn't because he was dirty. So there's another reason as to why Noah needed a shower. Is this to do with washing off the evidence and blood? Because if so, I'm just surprised anyone would take a dead body or a dying person into the house when there's witnesses about. Anyway, there's literally nothing you could say that would make me feel like there was a vehicle involved, or he fell out the back of a truck, or a spaceship beamed him on the side of the road. None of that happened. There was a time when I would value what you had to say no longer. Again, I don't give a beep what you or any of your friends think about my psychic friend or about me. I honestly just don't care. Think whatever you want, but everything about you continue to state as fact. I will be right behind you, correcting you. I've had the craziest amount of people in my DMs with stories about all of you. It's only a matter of time. I owe you nothing and you don't owe me Let me know. I will literally put every screenshot of that conversation out. I don't care. I want people to see it. I want them to be angry because the 19-year-old boy didn't deserve to be tossed on the side of the road like he was trash. How dare you? The audacity of you people sicken me. Did Brooke Bounce Carter or Stevie Howard tell you how I sent them screenshots because I was worried about Carter's safety? They sure appreciated me when I was looking out for Carter because I actually was worried about her safety. Soon there'll be a lot of surprising moments coming soon. I can promise you that. I would take such pleasure telling you to your face how wrong you are. I didn't have to go down like this. Right, bloody hell, Becca. I think you owe me a glass of water from reading all of that. It's like from Jan Fiorillo's #1 time bestseller extraordinaire paragraph. Good mouth workout from reading it all. But in all seriousness, well, I believe you just demanded me to show you my proof. Where is Dwayne's Tim? Where's the pitch of the shirt? You expect any of us to believe a word you say? This has nothing to do with Justin. Stop bringing him up. Any proof that I put out there doesn't come from a psychic. You don't stay out the convo. Oh God, it continues. Well, I just shared, and I did look into her a little bit, the psychic, and the thing that I noticed was her common connection with Jan Fiorillo, and that was the starseed stuff. Oh, so that is not just a coincidence. They both have that as their bio. Please don't get me wrong here, Becca. It is not the psychic that bothers me. It is your presentation of the information as fact that bothers me. Just preface things like you ask me and others to do. My source of this information is that all I'm asking. I don't care if you are now a Starseed 2 or whatever. Just be transparent. And honestly, I wouldn't even care so much if you didn't make such a big sticking point about calling people out for stating things as facts. I'll be doing the same thing. It's not because I don't think you are genuinely interested in facts. I do. I know you want the truth. I can tell you are passionate. I wish you find the truth. If you want me to seriously consider this person, please point me to where she has been correct on information beyond some statistical explanation. I am open to checking her out and so on. A lot of time bouncing around true crime groups as well, and you can think of me what you will. What true crime groups did you get involved in, Tim Daniel? What cases have you followed previous? Can you understand the concern some of us have? She is not doing this work for free, am I right? She is profiting from Noah's death. Maybe I've given you a tough time, but I watched in another group a couple of years ago where someone took advantage of a number of group members claiming they had past results. I looked into your person. I can't corroborate that she has ever had information that has helped solve a case. Tell me a case that she solved or helped with or whatever. I'll stop being a pain in the ass. Okay. Siobhan says to Becca, yeah, Brooke did tell me about your message. She also told you point blank it was wrong and Jack would never hurt Noah. Quit trying to make it sound like she believed the crap you were saying. I hope you didn't pay for this Facebook message. Psychic reading. I know, but I couldn't live with myself. I didn't tell you. Thank you for sending, but I can assure all of that is false and not even close to the truth. Becca, I appreciate your heart and wanting to help, but your thoughts towards Jack are so far off. Jack is probably the best kid out of the bunch. Carter is 100 safest with Jack than without, and none of these kids are in danger without whoever did this to Noah. They're in danger from all the lies being said over the case, but I'm telling you, none of these kids had anything to go with Noah's death. OHP knows it too, so I guess that's BBC responding. Listen, I don't care about any of that. I care about Carter's safety. End of story. I wanted to bring it up and I did. I have a reason to talk about it again. Thanks. I am not trying to be rude, says Brooke, maybe, because I want you to know I'm very thankful you are caring for them. So it was positive at one point and acknowledged and appreciated. Okay. And then what's this here? How am I supposed to read that? I'll read it to you. It's very small. So just listen. Someone says, is Carter in danger? And then a response, she's got heavy guilt and she's afraid to talk. In response, the party house mom knows what happened. Party house mum, Stevie Howard. Response, Jack feels volatile. If Carter talks, he'd see it as betrayal. Oh. If pressure builds and she cracks, Jack may preemptively threaten or harm her. Really? Sounds dark. I left messages with Noah's family. If she was coerced or too scared to stop what happened, she may be spiraling in silence. She likely feels trapped between justice and survival. This could cause depression, withdrawal, or self-harm impulses, especially if no one will believe her. Right, so someone at some point is claiming that Carter is trapped in a relationship with Jack and trapped in a spiral of web of lies and the dark truth, supposedly. I've never seen this before, I'll be honest. She's in more danger from Jack. I know, but I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you. Right. Who is the house mom you're referencing? Bring it, honey. I'm dying to post them all, says Becca. The highway video or the narrative around it was manipulated. It was likely created or supported by Jack, Newton, and possibly Brylan Sweat to redirect attention away from the actual location, cause, or time of death. They used the road to erase the house. Misdirection elsewhere, basically. Altercation began near or inside the house, but the fatal blows or major struggle happened just outside, possibly in the yard, driveway, or side of the house, somewhere on property. Noah was struck with the golf club after his death. After his death, a golf club was used. Really? The blow was likely part of a cover-up, misdirection, or misguided attempt to explain wounds. So what? Beside even getting to the highway and staging it as a hit and run, Noah, once dead, was whacked again with another item to then stage it as something else. Staging it as what? Because it sounds more like you're trying to stage it or create it to be a beatdown then. I mean, there's another case out there, the Rebecca Zahow case, in which you can interpret it clearer and easier when it comes to a possible staging. I didn't pay a dime. I sent this to Brooke and Stevie about my concerns for Carter, but you know, don't you? Right, so it looks like we've reached the end of the comments there. Referring back to Dwayne, the ex to Casey Smith, his comment on Facebook in the past, and I have highlighted it with red lines where the important parts are. In response to other people's comments, Dwayne said the tank top wasn't cut up or spread amongst anyone. Casey, Noah's mother, had given the tank top to me and my daughters. Right? And then below, Stephanie says, oh, so his American tank top was given to you guys. Not just any tank top, not Noah's tank top, which was in the wardrobe or cupboard left at his place of living where Deborah Smith's house is. No, but the tank top which Noah wore at the party. And Dwayne says, and more, and it's irrelevant. The letter N is short for and. So yes, Dwayne doesn't respond back with Stephanie's question with a yes or a no, but says and, which and basically means you're admitting to yes, that's what you have. It all comes down to language and wording. The term the tank top, is different to saying a tank top. A tank top could be any one. If you had like a set of 5 or a set of 10, a tank top, one of the 10 available, right? If you're saying the tank top, you're referring to a very specific one. The tank top with the button, the tank top with the hole in the back, the tank top which is black. And it just so happens that they're talking about the American flag tank top, right? And to say on top of it, how it further confirms it by saying the tank top wasn't cut up or spread amongst anyone. And that links back to people's claims online of Noah's tank top at the party house as a piece of evidence, as people were claiming and spreading it was cut up and spread amongst different party goers. And Dwayne is basically saying that didn't happen. And the reason why it didn't happen is because he has the tank top and it's in good condition. And it was Casey that gave it to me and my daughters. So the way Dwayne words this makes it sound like that Casey Smith did receive items of Noah which were evidence from the party house, right? That's how I interpreted it originally. And that's how you can still apply it right now on this individual basis. And for Dwayne to say to Stephanie's question of, oh, so was it the tank top which was worn at the party? And Dwayne says, yes, and more. And anyway, it's irrelevant. Well, why is it irrelevant? Now, I know the other person in the background interpreted it as it's irrelevant because to anyone who doesn't know us, other people aren't going to understand or they're not deserving of knowing. But you look at the period, you look at the full stops. It depends how people use the full stops, if it's used all in within the same sentence or not. If you use a comma, if you use a full stop, you're ending that sentence, you're starting a new one, which may not have any link or correlation to what you've just previously said. So if Dwayne says, yes, I have the tank top and more items as well, what are the other items? From the party or just from what Casey was given by a mum, Deborah Smith, that received second-hand scraps, more so from the house Noah lived at, not the party which Noah attended. Depends which way you look at it, right? But for Casey to at least say, I didn't receive the golf clubs, when Dwayne says, I have other items as well, likely Dwayne does not have the golf clubs. If Dwayne only has what he has because Casey gave it to him, if Casey didn't have the clubs, then Dwayne would have no chance of having them. So that kind of clears that part up about the clubs at least. And if there was any false claims made in the past, whether that be a member of the general public, whether it be someone within the case, or as some have claimed on Facebook just recent, in the convo, that it was Noah Presgrove's cousin, one of the cousins. Who's that? Why the hell would they do that of all people? Was that ever cleared up? I hope people talk about it more because I think there's a bit unfinished business there. But, there's points made by Becca and whatnot saying that, Dwayne doesn't have this and Dwayne doesn't have the tank top which Noah wore at the party. Okay, fair enough. And if that's what Casey has said privately, or those 4 boxes which were eventually handed on to Dwayne, if those 4 boxes never had any contents to do with Noah's possessions at the party and no American tank top, well then the way I would interpret it is that Dwayne does have a tank top, but it's not the same one which Noah had at the party, but more so what Noah had in his wardrobe back at his place of living, which wasn't used or worn at the party. So it's still a personal possession, but not a piece of evidence, and it's not relevant to the case. Maybe that's what Dwayne means by saying it's irrelevant, right? But to say it's irrelevant within the same sentence as you do have the tank top which Noah had at the party, that's a major problem because it's quite important, as in, is it a piece of evidence or not? Is it the tank top what you say it is as to what other people question? Or are you using the wrong wording? When you mean you have a tank top of Noah's, you mean not the one from the party, but one what Noah has in his wardrobe or closet, etc. And I think down to poor language and wording, there's a chance that what Dwayne is getting at is, there's a chance that it might be not from the party, it's not evidence, it's just an alternative tank top, which may or may not have a pattern on it, like the flag. Got to look at it that way too. Referring back to this, I do not have them as in the clubs. My mom and family would not even let me touch a single thing. So if there was any really important material from Noah's perspective, which was at the party deemed as evidence, which was the freshest thing, which would have Noah's scent on it, if that was the case, just based on common sense, and I don't know if anyone will agree with me, but, you know, Noah's hat, Noah's sunglasses, Noah's shoe, Noah's sock, Noah's wallet, those things are personal to Noah and are the freshest things about, because it's the last known things that Noah had on him, some stuff which he was wearing. And after the death of someone, some people tend to hold on to those items as a memory, but they might not wash them. They might keep them sealed in a bag, in a box, so it keeps that scent, that perfume. It could be underwear, keep the perfume on. It could be a shoe, it could be a hat. And it's just so you can keep it raw too, back then, to remind you of a memory, to remind you of that person. And it's just more there, right? It's evidence, it's important, yes, as long as it was handled with appropriately by police, that's good. But then from there on then, if it still holds a scent and it's not been washed, some people may not wash it because they want to remember and feel. It's just that sensory feel. So if family members deemed that as really important, and if Casey isn't allowed to touch anything, the most important stuff probably is going to go to other family members of Noah Presgrove, the victim's family. And what Casey receives is probably going to be the less important stuff, which might not be relevant to the party, but more so what Noah had been wearing earlier, days before, weeks before, months before, not as sentimental in value, not as delicate in a way. If that was the case, and if Robin Smith and Ashley Chadwick were a part of that, but they got the more important pieces of items which may or may not have been evidence, at the end of the day, depending when that happened, the exchange of all that stuff, if it was before the Partners in True Crime last interview 2024, well, you could dismiss it all and basically say, well, Robin Smith and Ashley Chadwick outright said hat, wallet, clubs, shoe are still missing. So if people like that who have got high priority to the most important pieces of possessions of Noah, they get first dibs, first pick. And if they of all people don't even have those pieces of evidence and claim that they're still missing, what chance does Casey Smith have, who gets second hand, given stuff, not having the choice? What chance would Casey have in receiving the really important material and possessions, which could be the evidence itself, because it's more fresh and more raw and holds Noah's memory at heart closer with more meaning and depth? Why would Casey have that stuff if she's not given first-hand choice of what she wants and what she would choose? You know, if other people get first priority and those people don't even have the evidence and say it's missing, well then I'm sure Casey would be in the same position as well, just based on that outlook. But I do understand people's interpretation of, there are 4 boxes and his nana, Deborah Smith, gave out all his stuff to family, and then Casey got the leftovers, which could be not that as meaningful or not as relevant as to evidence because it wasn't present. But the term, all his stuff. Well, in fairness, if Deborah Smith is in good communication with Robin Smith and Ashley Chadwick, for Deborah to give out all of Noah's possessions, all would mean that surely nothing would be missing then. If everything was handed over and given out to different people within the family, then maybe nothing is missing. But of course, we've seen Robin and Ashley say there are still items missing. So even when all this stuff was handed back, Robin and Ashley, at least, were aware that there are items missing. And at least with the golf clubs exclusively, Casey agrees too that they're supposedly missing. So it seems like in some way or another, some family members are kind of on the same wavelength. With that all being said, when it comes to the golf clubs, it's a mystery as in how they were handled, where they ended up. We're now hearing about one of Noah's cousins making a possible false claim about Casey. That's weird. We need proof, we need evidence of that, we need a screenshot of it immediately to try and figure out what the hell's going on there. With the other mentions of JJ Bumpers supposedly explaining and calling Caden Pressey out for lying, when was that? And where's the screenshot? We need proof and evidence of it immediately, because it just creates more cracks and it keeps unfolding over and over. And what were the lies about exactly? So it seems like there is unfinished business, but one thing or two has been cleared, as in family members don't have certain items, and other family members are completely aware that some items have never been returned back and are completely missing. So where did they end up, and why would they need to be missing? When there's some other items which are of higher value, as in money, price, if you was to sell it, items which have more rich data upon it and could tell a story to some extent with evidence and phone pings and phone logs and call logs and text messages. Noah's phone. Was Noah's phone gone missing? Nope. Was Noah's phone sold on? Nope. Was it handled appropriately? Supposedly. So why should Noah's phone be easily found, but Noah's wallet, Noah's sunglasses are a mystery? Because if there was foul play, this, you could treat it as a counterpoint. If there is foul play in the case, why would a wallet, a small piece of material, why would a wallet be handled with more care than a phone, which would hold more data and tell more of a story behind Noah? The only way I can see it in the moment is because Noah left his phone at the house, meaning it's not as important to explain Noah's death. If Noah walks away from the phone, walks away from the house, whatever happens to him happens, but away from the phone. So you can't look for phone pings, or you can't look for touch-based DNA on it. You can't look for blood on it because Noah is nowhere near it. He's away from it. So all that matters in the moment is the possessions and items which are deemed as evidence which were on Noah at the time of his death. So did Noah Presgrove have his wallet on him as he walked away? If he did, it would explain as to why a wallet could go missing but a phone did not, because the wallet has more value and more weight. Kind of a symbolism as well. As for Noah's other shoe though, well, it's been worded as Noah put on a pair of mismatched shoes in the first place. So even before Noah walked away, even before Noah died, a shoe was already missing. So it does have that little overlap that, yes, you can interpret it as some items could go missing because they've been taken, stolen, disposed of, destroyed. Other items have gone missing earlier on at the party, depending the time, because someone may have played a prank, a joke. It was Jack Newton that said someone messed with his hat. He couldn't find it, so he asked his father to bring a spare one when going to the fishing trip, or was going to. So the real question is, what items are truly missing? Well, it seems to be clear as to what. How did they go missing? That's unknown of. Where were they last seen? That would be important. Did the items all go missing at the same time? Or was it over the course of hours at the party, over the course of days? Did the golf clubs and bag disappear at the same time as Noah's shoe? Did Noah's wallet disappear at the same time as Noah's shoe? Or did one thing go missing before the others? And that there's not a direct correlation between it all, it's just separate events. Some items have gone missing because someone played a prank or a joke on Noah, tried hiding them. Other people may have taken or stolen items or disposed of them. Both could have happened, but just at different times. So there's other ways of looking at it. If there are any more updates, I'll do so, but it's at least a positive. You got to acknowledge that. It's at least a positive that Ashley Chadwick, Robin Smith and Casey Smith are all on the same wavelength when it comes to the golf clubs. Because for some time now, and what we've heard from Dwayne to earlier with that Partners in True Crime interview is that some people seem to know more than others. Some people seem to have more possessions than others. And it's to do with the case, but it's not quite the case. So even if there is a disconnect, even if there is a level of isolation and a split and divide, they seem to say the same thing like with the clubs. Would they say the same thing about all the other items? Well, Casey didn't really go into depth about that. So you can only interpret it based on language and wording, and based on getting the scraps, the second-hand stuff, not having first choice. Likely what Casey received wasn't as relevant to evidence such as at the party. I base it off when there's a death of someone, people may value the personal possessions of that victim who was wearing and had it on them at the time of the death over compared to an old jacket and an old top, just because it's more fresh and it holds that scent and it's the last known thing that they were wearing or at a happy moment in time before disaster struck. You know, people may hold on to a jacket, a coat, a pair of glasses, and anything else in between, damaged or not, just because it's more sentimental in value. And anything of value, sentimentally speaking, from how Casey words it, she wouldn't have. It would be other family members. So whatever Casey received wasn't as valuable, maybe, in some way, and maybe not as relevant or fresh to the party house and evidence. So if Ashley and Robin got the more important stuff, yet they also have said that the important pieces of evidence and personal possessions have not been returned, then, well, it says a lot, doesn't it? Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully it wasn't too dragged out, but I just wanted to make it as clear as possible and provide the different perspectives. All I will say is Dwayne's language and wording just by itself, okay? If you neglect everything else what's been said, Dwayne's comment clearly states that he has Noah Presgrove's American tank top, which is a piece of evidence because it's from the party house. Right? There is that chance that what Dwayne is referring to is he has a tank top of Noah's, but it's not the one that was from the party. It was just one from back at place of living. Not relevant to the case. That's why he means it's irrelevant. But we wouldn't know for sure because Dwayne's language and wording isn't clear enough. And partially because of his language and wording, it's what's led to people questioning Casey Smith. So it does have a domino effect. If there are any more updates, of course, I'll provide that. But for now, we'll leave it there. If you found the video interesting, feel free to give it a thumbs up, share the video, and I'll see you next time. My name's Wallet Raff. Thanks for watching. Goodbye and good night for now.